up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of The Spot. Thank you for again joining me, man. Thank you for, again, everybody who continues to support this page, support everything that we're doing out here, man. Again, like I said, we're here to spark conversation, man. We're here to, to provoke thought, and we appreciate all the feedback that we continue to get. Like I said, man, you never know who's on the spot, man, who can come through. My next guest today, man, I've known for a few years. I want to read this intro correct. I've known for a few years. We kind of both bonded off our love and passion for music, specific era like the 90s, but again, overall, just music in general. I said, closer to that time, I remember, when we first met, the powers that be at that time kind of trying to pin us against each other a little bit. And it was just on some extra shit, but we couldn't deny the undeniable common ground we had, which was the music. And um, it got to a point where we were undeniably in the same realm, in the same court, in the same room, when it came to this music. And he's a devoted husband. He's a father. He's an entrepreneur. And he's my favorite DJ. I like to say. I thought I knew this thing we call hip hop. I thought I had this shit all the way down. Like I didn't think really nobody was really deeper than me when it came to this shit and when it came to this musical shit. But my brother, his musical Rolodex is super deep. He invited me over to his set, at his spot, one time, and I was starting to put my collection together, and I'm telling you, this man set up, put my shit all the way to shame when I when I stepped into his realm and his world, man, and you know, um, it was dope just to see that element and see him in his element and see him in his world, man. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'd like to welcome my guest, Mr. Ike Check. Come on in, brother. Welcome to the spot, man. Thank you for joining me, my brother. You dig what I'm saying? So welcome, man. Looking good, man. What's going on with you, man? Same old.
Same old. Just trying to get ready for like the holidays.
I dig.
I'm on vacation this week, so which is nice.
Nice. Yeah, I could dig that, man. Shit, anytime away from the job, just away from, you know what I'm saying, just the daily grind and the daily shit that you can just kind of get away from, decompress.
For sure.
It's always the greatest way, you know what I'm saying, to always bring yourself back to where you need to be. So tell us where you from, man. Tell the world who don't know you, man. Where you from, man? What's your neck of the woods, man?
So I was born in Lakewood. Growing up, I grew up in Carson, California, right off of Avalon. Moved over to Temecula for a while. Which is where I think like a lot of like you. It's weird because whenever people hear about Temecula, rightfully so, you just think about it's just the straight up suburb, right? Like so total, Republican stronghold, majority white community and stuff. And so I grew up there when there was really, nothing, there was a bunch of like housing tracts at the time that were being built. A lot of the time, it was just straight up just dirt, compounds just to build houses on. And so a bunch of neighborhood kids at the time, because literally like there was nothing there. There was probably like a post office and then a gas station and then just like this like new plaza that was being built. And I think it was like I want to say like it was like an Albertson or something like that.
So you was there during the ground building and you saw.
It actually wasn't even called Temecula then. It was actually called Rancho California.
No shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, bunch of like dirt compounds. I think where we were at was probably one of like the housing tracts that were just kind of just being built there.
Okay.
And so I don't know how the hell my dad and my uncle found this place, but they found it. And so my uncle, first and foremost, was the one that wanted to move out there. And so my dad followed. Right. And so you would meet kids, in the neighborhood and, out of like these dirt compounds and stuff, we started building like, bike jumps and shit like that. And I started meeting, more and more people.
Right.
I started hanging out with like, at the time, there was just a bunch of people that were kind of just moving into the spot. So it was just a mix of people.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you had, some Black families that were coming in, Asian families, not primarily Filipino, but like one of like my good homeboys that I grew up with out there. He's a Vietnamese dude.
Okay.
Named Tone, who ended up being like a sponsored skateboarder.
No shit.
And shit. Yeah, we still
talk.
We're still close. To this day. Mexican families that came
Mhm.
in. So there was like a hot pot of like people that were just moving over there, and I didn't really realize this up until you get older. But I think because of that melting pot, it shaped a lot of the things I was influenced in.
Right.
Because it was easy. Like if you were from Carson, like if I was still there, it was a big gang thing back then.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Huge gang thing. Especially with Filipinos against Filipinos,
Mhm.
blacks against blacks, blacks against Latinos, Islanders against Filipino, like that
Yeah.
whole thing.
Right.
And so
back in those times, race was really like it was a really big thing to be down with your own, and then you know what I'm saying. Like back then, it wasn't really like a whole like segregated different union that they have now. So I get what you mean. Back in the 90s and stuff like that, it was huge.
And that was a dangerous time too.
Yeah, of course.
It was a really, really dangerous time because like, when you were from gang culture back then, I mean, that was gang culture.
You were really in it.
Oh yeah.
You were really in it.
Yeah.
There was no like associating.
No, not at all,
it was a lot of times you had to be in it, depending on the neighborhood you was in.
Yeah.
Coming in and out, I mean, that was your survival. You know what I'm saying? That was the way you survived. How you got back home safe. You dig what I'm saying? So that was huge back then. Yeah, that was huge.
And the community, the neighborhood that you were in, they pretty much took you in. Right. Like so, if you were a part of that neighborhood, you belonged to that neighborhood, and so you have to get back to that neighborhood.
Right. Of course.
And so everybody knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But just very different from now. Very different from now.
Right.
Everything is everything's very, very general, like the whole social media thing.
Mm-hmm.
and this and that was just a different time coming up. And so I think that's one of the reasons why my folks they wanted to move.
Mm-hmm.
Was because they knew that there was a chance that if we were still in that area,
right. Potentially
I would have gotten into a gang, or I would have been just some knucklehead.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that we didn't do that.
Right. But I'm just saying, I know what you mean, because a lot of things, again, like you said, a lot of families had to move out of those areas just because their children would have been forced into that life. It wouldn't have been something that they really could have controlled. It was a forced thing. Like I said, your homies growing up, it was a survival type thing, and it was like you either gonna be down or you gonna, you know what I'm saying, not be down, and potentially something happens. So you kind of like damned if you do and damned if you don't in those times. And it's unfortunate a lot of brothers and sisters got killed out there, just having to be down out of survival, not even wanting to be. You dig what I'm saying? So yeah, man. I mean,
if anything, man, that's like it does force you, to grow up really, really quick.
It's crazy, ain't it?
Yeah.
Think about the average kid right now that's your age back then. That like I said, I get a lot of feedback where people think I'm like bashing kids and shit like that, but it's just a generational gap. Could you imagine your kids at that age having to deal with that kind of shit, or deal with the kind of shit that we dealt with? I don't think they really would have been able to deal with it. Not the mentality, or not the things that they have to, the things that they deal with today. I don't think that would have been prepared for those times back then.
And I think too, on the same token, I think a lot of like what we do, like as parents now, is we try as much as possible to share that with them, so that they don't go down the same road.
Right.
Because I think, if anything, man, like I want my kids, and I'm sure it's the same way with you. You want them to soar above, what you've done or what you're doing.
Right.
But I guess that being said, it's like, even though like, I did escape like that part of, my parents not wanting me to get into that. Like a little bit of it kind of just follows you. And so, talk about growing up fast. Me and my wife, we did start a family young. I think I was 21. I think when we had Kea, and so she's 22 now. In nursing school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing, bro.
Man. Yeah. My oldest boy, Jonah, he's going to school for hospitality.
Nice.
He's 19. Micah, he just started driving not too long ago, 16. And
I remember I seen.
We got the little one, Ezra, that's 6, and he's walking and talking and
yeah,
playing.
little man. He's got a little personality.
Yeah.
I've seen your pictures and stuff, man.
Yeah, just like with your family too, man. Everybody's
yeah, man. Everybody, yeah, man. You remember when I had, you know what I'm saying? You know, I told you when we first met, obviously I had my oldest, but, I had babies and stuff like that. And it's just crazy of how you see your offspring just kind of grow and, what you didn't want for them and what you're able to protect them from now and give to them and kind of give them the gems. The thing goes back in the day, our parents was always working.
Yeah.
Our parents were always out, always trying to survive and always trying to bring in. It's a little bit different than what we live now.
Yeah.
We're a little bit more involved in our kids' life. And quite frankly, we kind of have to be, given the social society that we, that we have to just be forced to live in now. You have to watch your kids a little bit closer now. You have to watch, the way of the world because they have so much access to things so much faster than what we did. Dude. You dig what I'm saying? They can access everything with the click of a thumb. You know what I'm saying? We had to go find, you know what I'm saying? We go find places to, you know what I'm saying? Remember, I was reading that the other day. Somebody said, if you grew up if you're a 70s, 80s, and 70s or 80s baby, you walked miles to places with no problems. True. You got around with no cell phones. True. You got around with, and it was that's just kind of what we did. You know what I'm saying? I remember going, rent movies and stuff like that on our bikes and just traveling and stuff like that. But now I don't like my daughter going to, you know what I'm saying? Walk the dog up the street, bro. It's scary.
It's so funny, man. We were talking about that at work actually just like a few weeks ago about how it used to be so easy for us. Like we used to, go to school, come home, finish your home. I used to want to rush through my homework.
Right, of course.
Because I wanted to go out and
go outside, right?
And you just left.
Right.
There was this common code that you had with your parents at the time. Well, my parents were always working.
Mm-hmm.
We were latchkey kids, right? So we would come home. Nobody would be home at the time. Actually, my aunt had just started living with us.
Okay.
So she came from the Philippines, to live with my parents. But before this, when she wasn't there, it was just me, my sister, my little sister actually at the time wasn't even born yet. But it would just be just us.
Right.
And again, product of your environment.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be around riding bikes and stuff, and you have this common code that when the street lights come on,
bring your ass
home, right?
Yeah.
But now, when we were talking about this at work, you think a lot of the shit that goes on nowadays with the whole Amber, because they have this shit now online where you could see who
lives in your damn neighborhood, right? Yeah. Your weird Pete up the street.
Not to say that shit wasn't going on back.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
But because it's so much more accessible, motherfuckers are starting to think twice.
Oh yeah. Times about, you letting your kids out. Yeah, I don't. My wife likes to go on her walks and stuff like that, and it's like, yo, I don't really want you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Not without me, not, what I'm saying, making store runs and stuff like that. It's I'm just it's just the time that we live in is just, like you said, it's just different.
Yeah.
It's just different. And you would think back then in those times, how the hell do we get by? You know what I'm saying? Without these, because my wife, they got this thing called on Apple, I think it's called 360 something, where you can watch your kids, or saying you just said there's something on your phone, they'll track where they are.
Yeah.
And I've seen they had the little things, the air tags, put them in their shoes, on their backpacks. Dude, that's some crazy shit, it's the craziest shit ever, bro. That's the scary shit, dog.
So, my neighbor actually, it was so funny, man. Her son started driving a couple years ago. He's a little bit older, he's probably the same age as my daughter.
Right.
And so I hear her in the driveway telling her son, Mateo, please make sure that when you watch your driving,
right,
because I know how fast you're going. And so he takes off, not even listening, and I'm in the driveway laughing, and I was like, how do you know how fast he was going?
Right.
She goes, I put this tracker on his car.
Oh shit, you see what I'm saying? It's this kind of shit, bro.
That shows how fast he was going, and I was like, God damn,
man. All that shit that we used to be into, bro. I would have had our asses beat.
Oh my God.
Bro, dude. Come on, man. Come on, man. Hell no, man. I would never want my parents to know what the hell we used to get into back in the day. Hell no.
And some over here laughing. I was like, this dude, 22 years old.
Right.
You got a tracker on his car.
Right. But that's to show you the maturity of these kids now, the maturity of an average 24-year-old. We'll get into that later on, but think of Tupac. Tupac died at 25. This motherfucker lived the entire life going, what I'm saying, dealing with so many different things before 25. What's an average 25-year-old right now? I wouldn't trust them to I can't. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying all, but I'm saying the vast majority of these the the underage group, the 20s and 25s and teenagers now, it's just different. It's just different. It's just different, man.
Very
it's just
different,
man. So how was it? I know you say you got like I said, you're a father. You got 4 kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
4 kids. Oldest is a girl. Mm-hmm. 3 younger boys. Man, how was that growing up? Man, 'cause I got 3 girls. So with boys, how was that, bro? Like,
it's it's weird because before she was even born, like we were getting already kind of like you know critique kind of like from parents that had girls, having like girly girls or we had friends that and coworkers who had girls that were much older at the time, saying that their girls are drama. I honestly I can't. She's been a blessing, honestly.
Absolutely.
She's a good girl. She wasn't really too girly growing up.
Okay.
She was more of like a nerd.
Okay.
More of like I want to say she was kind of almost like tomboyish.
Okay.
But just very much of a nerd. She was at the time, like, what was she, like 6 or 7? Like she was into like bugs and animals, and she was going through like that stage.
That phase.
Like she wanted to get a lizard.
Yeah.
Like just like weird stuff, and she was really into music. So I mean, even as a baby, we always had music playing in the house because that's how it was, with me growing up. My mom was very big into like contemporary, like Filipino stuff, back then, even traditional stuff, and into like a lot of R&B, which that's how I first fell in love with listening to like soul music, R&B music, and from just different, because it's very different listening to like Filipino love songs and then listening to like American, but the message is still there.
Right.
And then my dad was mainly into a little bit more like Filipino rock stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had a big
very
big
yeah.
A big variety
of stuff.
Of music in your house. That's dope.
We had an uncle at the time that played like a lot of like organ music and stuff, but from the Philippines.
Okay.
And so that's where my love for like instrumental stuff kind of came along. But when Kay was growing up, she was the only one that we had. I would put her to see. She was really bad. Like when she was really young, she had really bad colic.
Oh wow.
Her and my last one, like literally, like really bad. I remember there was one time that me and Josie, my wife, you would put Kaya down and she would just cry for hours.
Oh my god.
And so the only thing that would help is she liked going on car rides, or she had this swing. But if you took her out of the swing, she would.
It's cry. A wrap. Yeah.
But she loved car rides, and so I remember, just one night, like 2 a.m, like, I finally put her down to bed. Music was playing because something always had to be on. And I put her down, and she just cried. And so me and wifey put her up in the car, and we just drove until the sun came up. We got, I think, down to like downtown LA, like just on side streets.
Right. Just just doing what you could.
And yeah, but there was always like music that was just playing, and I think that's where she has a pretty, like, for somebody that's her age, she has a very deep love for like 90s R&B music.
Right.
Like SWV is like one of her favorite.
Nice.
Groups.
How old is she?
Stuff. 22. Yeah.
Youngsters, do your research.
And and now because of that, she's obviously an avid concert goer, so she's into singers like SZA and Joyce Rice.
Right. Okay.
So she's very much taken on embodied that type of like that same love.
That's dope though, man.
And her mom had for music.
That's dope. I think that's pretty amazing because it's like I always say like music. Music is the biggest bonding tool I think
so too.
Humans can use. There's so much separation in the world, and there's only 2 things that I believe that people that bring people together, which is music and food. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
You dig what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So when you talk about youngsters liking music and stuff like that, I remember it was actually you shared a video with me at one point. I think it was a wedding or something, and there was a bunch of kids, and it was like the DJ was just playing the music, and it was some song, but it was a '90s song, and all those kids knew. Your daughter was
my daughter's debut. It was her debut, yeah. So
they knew it word for word. I'm like, yo, these are youngsters, bro. Like, how the hell? Like, they were. I mean, it was partying, bro. That was dope to see, dude. That made me smile,
it's
bro.
It's kind of like the same thing with like Mexicans and the quinceañeras, except for with Mexicans celebrating their daughter's 15th birthday.
Okay.
A debut in our culture, in our Philippine culture, is when your daughter turns 18.
Come of age. Yeah.
You have this party that's called a debut, and so she brought we had like a whole bunch of family. But at the end of it, they were singing the whole.
That was dope.
But STV.
Yeah, that was dope, and man. That was dope.
I didn't even know that they were. So our cousin's wife, girlfriend at the time, she does like videography and stuff like that, and I didn't even know that she was filming that.
No
so
shit.
When she put it together, I was like, "This is dope."
That was dope.
Yeah. It was a nice surprise, man.
That was dope. That was dope to see, man. That was dope to see. And I know the boys, man. I know the boys. You know, I know they want to be just like Pops.
Yeah.
I'm sure. You know what I'm saying? Growing up, and I know that's tough. So you got the girl.
Yeah.
But then the boys.
The boys are very. I don't want to say that they're different. I want to say that it's one is very much more clean cut, and then Micah, which is my 16-year-old, he's a little bit more of a free spirit, if you will. Very much into like a lot of the stuff that I was into. So big on like this generations of like car culture, big into hip hop. Same thing with Jonah. Jonah's more of like he's more of like an R&B dude. Like if you and I listen to everything that's different in my car, like when I'm driving. But if like you were to look through like my Spotify or anything like that, I'm a huge underground hip hop fan.
Yeah,
huge underground hip hop fan.
You got me into a couple people. You like put me on a few.
Even with and underground anything really, right? Because I remember who was it that I was listening to back in the day that was just like R&B and like Joyce Rice, especially. She was like on the come up. Damn, I can't remember dude's name. They speak Spanish though. We got a brother that's in that's in the industry. Soul dude. Man, I can't even remember dude's name right now.
I don't know. I can't think of it. We'll think about it when they get there. But that's what's up, man. I it's dope to have a family who kind of partakes in the things that you like and kind of partakes into the music that you like. Like you said, you always kept music on around your kids.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with me. My the babies, you know what I'm saying, especially my oldest, it's funny that she knows a lot of the songs that I put on. So I don't really, like I like to say, I don't really listen to a lot of things past 2010. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't really listen to that kind of stuff, but if I put on like old school Ludacris, or I put on, I have stuff from Ludacris to Tina Marie to Sade, to Outcast, to like that is my, you know what I'm saying? Like my Spotify list is kind of like all over the place. Dude. Yeah.
That's like one of those that's one of those things where I purposely will go online to see whether or not she's announced that she's going to go on tour again.
And she has not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
I've been looking for years.
Yeah.
The last time she went on tour, she did Coachella.
Yeah.
And my homeboy was there, and he had to go. And I'm like, dude, man, I wish I'd been on a fly on the damn floor at that damn show, bro. Like, she don't pop out, bro. She don't pop out for shit.
Yeah.
And you just gotta catch her when she can. But again, she don't pop out, bro. Like, I have to see her. That's like I told my wife, that's one of my bucket lists. We actually went to Amoeba on my birthday this year, and I was looking for any albums I could find on her. They had nothing. The only album they had was like her greatest hits.
Yeah.
But I wanted specific albums.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
But I'm like, I just take what I can get, bro. Like, so I just got it. I picked it up, and man, I just love it. It just brings me to you get that certain rush of dopamine when you bring you back to the times back. You know what I'm saying? When you was a kid, or
anytime like a Sade joint comes on, it's like damn.
Yeah, man. It bring, you know what I'm saying? That just brings you to them times. Oh yeah, man.
And then she's like 20-30 minutes.
Right. Oh yeah.
Like Lauryn Hill.
Right.
She's 20. She don't even come at all.
She don't even come at all. And talk shit when she get there. Like, I should be lucky I even come to this motherfucker right now. Like,
dude, you know what?
Yeah, bro.
I love Lauryn, but fuck, yo,
she's another one I have to see too. Like, I would love to see Lauryn Hill.
I'm like,
Lauryn Hill is one of my favorite artists, even though she has what, 2 albums?
Yeah.
Was it 3 albums? Is it 3? Is the introduction to Lauryn Hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she had the live album.
Yeah.
Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Excuse me. Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Then she had the live album. I think, was there one more? I want to say.
I think she did another. She did another one with a Wasn't it a collab with one of the Marley?
I think it was. Yeah.
That's
an old man, right? One of them was old man. I know that.
You know, I love her, dude, but. Dude, this self-entitlement bullshit. Like,
yeah.
People are paying some money.
Yeah, you know, and it's time-wise, bro. Dude. I've been to a show. I've left when I remember it was a point where we had to. We were at the Summer Breeze Fest, and Guy was coming out. I wanted to see Guy so bad. I wanted to see Guy so bad. Folks came out like an hour later, and we was like, "Yo, we gotta go. We got our kid." You know what I'm saying? Like, we had to go, but. You know, we went back the next day, and you know, people was like, "Yo, the show was dope." I'm like, "You motherfuckers, man!" Like, so I mean, I hate it. I hate it when you get these people who, you know, feel entitled, and like they just, you know, peasants. You know,
the crazy thing about it too. Okay, so there was a video of her that she came out. I forgot. I don't know where the show was at, but she basically came on stage and addressed her being late, and she said. You should be lucky I'm even.
I heard her say that. I'm even out here.
So, and the person that was taking the video was kind of bigging her up.
Right, right. Why
are you supporting that?
Right.
Supporting. You know, I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, you have when you have fans, man. You have to. These are people who pay your bills.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I've always said that. You know, you always have to be, you know, pro fans. You can't be just on some like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Who is this and who is that? These ain't, you know, these ain't this. And you know, it's funny you say that. This is a whole other thing, but when you get to entitlement, and this brings up this whole, you saw the Milli Vanilli.
I did, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was insulted. It wasn't even had shit to do with me. But after they won that Grammy, and Paul McCartney, we're talking about Paul McCartney, the Beatles.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Prolifically one of the greatest bands that has ever graced music. We're talking about Paul McCartney, one of the greatest writers, composers. Paul McCartney. These motherfuckers said, "Who is Paul McCartney? I ain't got time for him." After he wanted to congratulate them after winning a bogus ass damn Grammy, man. I couldn't believe that shit. We were sitting there watching, like, are you kidding me? And it's just, you know, you know, this old saying, you get too big for your britches. You know what I'm saying? You get too big for your britches back, and then you just, you know, artists, you know, I just wish they would really just like appreciate their fans and just appreciate people more. You know, when this entitlement shit comes in, man, that's when you kind of lose authenticity. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to, you know, your validation, I think your validation is what your fans make you.
Yeah.
And you know, people not gonna want to fuck with you if you act like that with them. You know what I'm saying? Like you act like you too good. You know my KRS-One story. I told you about that shit a long time ago. I don't really ride with that dude like that, just because it was just.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah. I told you about that shit, bro. Like, yeah, man. You already know, man. So, but you know, going back, we got to know each other, and you know, the bond over music, and like I said, we, you know, talking, and you know, obviously we both agree that the '90s, you know, that was, if not the greatest genre of music, especially when it came to R&B. New Jack Swing, that's an untouchable genre, you know. But as a DJ, man, I'm sure that had a lot of influence in as to why you wanted to get into DJing, man. Can you speak into what your introduction was into DJing and influence?
I started backwards, right?
Okay.
Like, you would automatically think like hip hop has always been a huge part of my life. Like, I remember, like, you would look through a fucking magazine and there'd be like those Columbia.
Yeah.
And you get like 12 CDs for
like right, a penny or some shit like that. Yeah.
I used to mark those motherfuckers and that, and like, you know, so I mean, growing up, man, my older cousins, they used to listen to 1580 K-Day, which was an internet station, and you had you had DJs on there like Tony G and Julio G, and later on Julio was part of 92.3 The Beat. My cousin at the time was a big NWA fan, and that's when they were just they were just still selling shit out of their thing, and and so as a kid growing up, you look up to like these people that are older than you, your cousins, and that the music that they're listening to becomes a huge influence onto it. So growing up, right off the bat, like I was a huge hip hop head, always, man. And then you start, you hear about like the local artists, like like your Ice Cubes and your Dr. Dre's and stuff. Undeniably, just legends in their own right. And then you start listening to hip hop in other places. And when I found, New York hip hop, oh my God, dude.
It was. I know that's a huge thing with you as far as New York hip hop.
Huge thing, dude. Like, and then listening to, stuff from like the South, from like the Midwest, and then just all around the world, right? And so I embodied all of that. But how I first started getting into DJing was there was a dude that I think I was a freshman at the time, maybe younger than that, 8th grade, maybe. Yeah, 8th grade. And there used to be this guy named Eric who he was he was in high school, but he had like all like the dope DJ gear, right? And so we went over to his house one time, and that was my first dose of seeing what a DJ does, right? And so he started scratching, like Transformer scratches, just like, and it was dope. And I remember thinking to myself, like, fuck, this is dope. Like, I want to learn how to do that shit, And my dad at the time, he had they used to sell like these little stereo systems. It used to be like a tape deck, like it used to be like a
tape deck. Yeah, tape deck, 2 speakers on the side,
receiver, 2 speakers on the side,
and then turntable at the top. Yep, I know exactly what you mean. Yep,
and the turntable was shit.
Right.
It was a belt drive turntable, but like lighter than shit, dude. Had a real fucked up.
Right. Yeah, It was.
And then when you try to scratch on it, it just skips.
Yeah.
But I found a way to scratch
manipulate
on it.
That shit. Yeah.
I didn't have any mixer or anything like that at all. And then that's when I started kind of buying records. So there was like a Indian family, the only damn Indian family in Temecula at the time, and they had a garage sale, and they had Indian records.
Oh shit.
And so I was like, oh, this is dope.
Yeah.
So they didn't care, like, right?
Yeah.
And like looking back at it now, I'm sure they would have wanted to keep it, but they had maybe about 20 records. And I used to save. I'm the kind of kid that when my parents gave me lunch money for school, I wouldn't even buy lunch.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I would save that shit and go to warehouse.
No shit.
Yeah, and buy records.
Old school warehouse.
Yeah. Old school warehouse.
Yeah.
At the time, like they had a record section, and I would just go and buy just records, or tapes or whatever.
Right.
And so I remember this kid's name is Vic Agnihotri, Indian dude. They were the only Indian family there. I asked to buy all of the records.
No shit.
And so the mom comes down. She goes, "What are you gonna do with these?" And I go, "I just want to listen to them, but I want to listen to all of them. I'm gonna keep them." And she gave them to me for like $3 for everything.
No shit.
So I took it with me, and I would listen to it, and I would listen to music like in all of its entirety. And one thing about me too is like I can nerd out on stuff like that. So I always read like the liner notes to see who it was produced by, who played what instrument,
who had what credits on
that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's very important. And
of course.
And then you get stuck reading these things, and like it just stays with you, right?
Right. Back then you couldn't Google.
No.
There was no Googling.
And the sad thing about it too, like you can Google it now and there won't even
you still won't be a lot of shit.
Weird. Yeah. But yeah, so that combined with like seeing this dude in high school scratch, and then listening to like music from like in another continent, everything started kind of come like full circle for me, right? But I was a big Elements kind of hip hop dude. Scratching was by far like almost like another language to me. It was like this way. So when my dad's belt drive turntable broke,
you broke it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me and these friends who I'm still friends now. It's like my DJ group. We were all like in high school, freshmen,
right,
or sophomores at the time. We all came. There was this another kid that we went to high school with, named Ventura, and he had belt drive turntables, and he was selling a realistic mixer. It didn't even have a crossfader.
no
It was just
shit,
all upfaders. This is like the shit that you got like at Radio Shack back
right,
in the
right,
day.
right, right.
And so he was selling that whole setup for he gave it to us for $80. So there was six of us, and we all came up with like
Split
10,
that
20
shit, yeah,
bucks or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And we said to each other, "Oh, we'll keep it 1 week at somebody's house, the next week in another." And so that's what we did.
Right, right.
Um, and then we would just go to each other's house, and we'd be up to like 2 or 3 in the morning, even on school nights, dude.
No shit.
Just like scratching,
learning and trying to learn the craft.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we started, listening to dudes like um, like Cutmaster Swift, Cool Herc, uh, you know, even Jam Master Jay.
Mm-hmm.
There were even dude Jazzy Jeff was another one.
Huge,
He's
yeah.
Huge pioneer with stuff back in the day. He's like, especially with the Transformer scratch. There was just so many DJs that we learned from, but more locally, like or in Cali, we would listen to like the Invisible Scratch Pickles, which was, Qbert, Mixmaster Mike, Shortcut, and then later on, D Styles and Yoga Frog. The Beat Junkies are like that's one of my favorite crews of all time because they embodied and they're from this area.
Yeah.
But they embodied like a lot of like the hip hop culture.
I remember hearing about Beat Junkies when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And I had kind of, what I'm saying, I had kind of started hearing a lot of stuff like that. Yeah. They were obviously older, from when I was a teenager, but I do remember the Beat Junkies.
And then you hear about them, and then you see how far back their roots go, and so they were listening to Dre at an early age.
Right.
And then you would listen to DJs in New York, like the Executioners, X-Men at the time, like Rock Rada, just a line of just like talented DJs. And then I started getting into watching DJ competitions.
Okay.
Like Doubling Up and just hardcore, just competitions that would they would just leave you in awe.
Yeah, I've seen some shit that made me just be like, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy,
gosh.
Dude.
They behind their back. They're nuts with it, man. They get busy with it, bro. So.
And that's that was like, and that's what I mean by going backwards. Usually, you're listening to stuff, you're learning how to mix.
Right.
But our first thing was like my group. At the time, we were called the Supersonic Stylish Slinters, and that was our group.
Yeah.
And that's all we did was just fucking scratch.
Right.
And it's crazy. So like, even up until now, like, we could still get together in a room and we can put like a pair of turntables in front of us, and we could still.
That would be dope. That would be dope to see, bro. That would be dope to see, man. Yeah. I've always, I've never got into DJing, but I've always loved the culture, the scratching, just of how they embody the room. Like, for me, like I said, I've always sat back. Now I'm a rapper, I was a rapper at the time. So I've always had DJs just kind of run the music for me. But you never understand, bro. People don't really understand how powerful the DJ is.
Yeah.
People think that, the MC and he gonna control the room, and yeah, to a certain extent he controls the crowd. However, you ain't shit without no DJ, and especially a DJ who know how to rock the damn party out. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is about the DJ, they gotta know how to read the floor, know the mood, know when it's time to turn up, know when it's time to turn down, know when it's time to kind of phase it out and kind of getting back into the show of things. They're the entire, you know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people kind of get that twisted a little bit, as far as that goes. Have you ever had an experience with any artist or anything like that? That it just kind of was like.
I have. And there was like a big drop off. Like I've worked with several MCs that really didn't understand that.
Right.
And so there was never really, like, I don't want to say a connection. I think it's just we were just on two different paths.
Right. Okay.
And so a lot of the times, like whenever I was making music, like it was almost kind of like how you were saying, like you have to kind of like learn how to like read the crowd. I was making like a lot of music for MCs, but I was like, man, fuck this, I gotta make music.
Right. Of course.
Right. And it was a lot more personable. It was a lot more meaningful. but yeah, one of my favorite DJ groups of all time is Gangstar.
Yeah, shout out to
And
Gangstar.
yeah, and and DJ Premier and is one of my favorite producers
Primo, man.
of all time. Another one of my favorite groups who's actually from LA is Dilated Peoples. And Babu is their
Dilated
DJ.
Peoples is shit,
yeah.
bro.
And I mean, that
was some shit, man. They're one of my favorites.
Our science from Dilated always says the backbone of hip hop is the DJ.
Mm-hmm, of course.
Right? And I think see, I can get really deep on this too, because I think that a lot of the times too that it's just we kind of weren't being our own voice for ourselves. Mm-hmm. Instead, like I see this too, like with people that DJ nowadays, especially if they have like a regular and they're not getting paid what they should be getting mm-hmm. paid, and they're having to dumb down their worth in order to make a buck. It's kind of sad, dude. Mm-hmm. Honestly, because there's a lot of dope DJs out there that deserve to get the praise that they're getting.
Right.
But I think in general, it's like that's what, unfortunately, like nowadays, dude, that's kind of like it's happened to hip hop, right? Like,
yeah.
It's almost like the powers that be is like they're taking it for, they're trying to like bleed it dry for like everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of things are money grabs.
Yeah,
a lot of things are money grabs, and a lot of people they're not looking for authenticity anymore, and that's what takes the substance out of it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And I think you can ruin an entire culture when you always put money into it.
Yeah.
When you put money and then you bring power and then you bring different things like that, you ruin the culture. And especially people, I like to call them culture vultures, who are just button pressers, DJs. They're not really real DJs. They're and a lot of them don't even make the music that's behind.
Yeah,
they're just the face of it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to call people out, but you got producers, like Khaled and like all these, just different people who call themselves DJs. They're not really I mean, they're DJs. They come from the DJ world, but they don't really produce, what I'm saying, what it is that they put out and shit like that, because again, there's a lot of money behind it, and you know what I'm saying.
And not to say that there isn't, you just have to search
more
for it.
Yeah. It's out there. You just have to you just have to search for it.
Yeah, you just got to.
We're simply talking about industry.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Type shit. You know what I'm saying? Industry type shit, which kind of again takes the authenticity and the substance out of the original form and the foundation of the love of it.
There's just like, I mean, nowadays like hip hop is very different.
Oh yeah. I talk about that shit all the time.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's still dudes that are new school cats that like I'll listen to, like that got some pretty dope stuff, and a lot of the times, man, I'm just listening to like fucking like whatever, like worldly music.
Right.
Like
no, you sent me some shit when you was listening to it, and I'm like, what is this shit? But I'm like, when I put it on the loudspeaker, I'm like, this shit is dope, bro. Like this shit, like I said, man, your Rolodex is deep, bro. You opened my eyes to a lot of shit that I didn't even realize, just the sounds and different things like that. So I mean, as a producer, what particular do you have any particular like? What first of all, let me ask you this: sampling. I remember back then when like Kanye came in and he would sample a lot of things, and he got a lot of flack for it. But I think Kanye is one of the greatest producers that has ever touched
Same here, dude.
a studio, has ever got into a studio, has ever, put music together. What was your thoughts on sampling? Like, what are your thoughts on sampling?
One of the rushes for me, like, especially like, so this could be something just like totally random, but like back in the day, I remember just you didn't know who the fuck the artist was.
Right.
You would just, for whatever reason, you would just run across the record, like you just picked it up for whatever reason, had a dope cover. There was something that you were feeling about it. So you buy it, not knowing that there was a sample on it.
Yeah.
And you would play, and you're like, oh shit.
Right.
This is from this and that. And it just brings, I think even still, like now, even like if I'm buying something and I hear something, it brings back that feeling. I'm not against it at all.
Yeah.
I think if you're doing it creatively, that's why, I love Pete Rock and I love Premier, is because they have such a different take on sampling, and even just these new producers, now, Alchemist for he's been in the game for a long time, but that's
a bad motherfucker amazing, right there. But Alchemist is a bad motherfucker.
You listen to shit like Ye, right? And he does like, Through the Wire.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's a Shaka
Khan record,
but it's a dope ass
Shaka. Yeah,
like how
of
he
course.
does that.
Yeah.
Right, and you can't deny like that's fucking dope.
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean, like, you listen to a lot of the old school Dre records, and like you go back, just go back and listen to Snoop, Doggy Style, Dre, Chronic, you know, Daz Dillinger, and all the Dog Pound and all that kind of stuff. All that stuff was sampled. That stuff was records from the 60s and 70s and 80s. You know, so they were sampling, you know, a lot of the stuff that they did back then, and it was like, you know, when we watched the Defiant Ones.
Yeah.
When Dre did that Marvin, oh my God, and then he just isolated the vocals, and he had the drums over here, and he had the highs over here, and it's like
the technology now.
Fuck, bro, like,
and that was when Dre had a deep record collection back then. Actually, it's funny, dude, because if you look back at the Chronic, the first one, or this, no, maybe it might be the second one, but at the back of the album cover is just him and Hitman, and there's just a shitload of records.
Right. And just listed.
And he had that shit back then.
Yeah.
But like the technology now is crazy because now you could actually, like the software that DJs have now, you could actually take vocals out of, like, you know, have just an instrumental going, and fuck, dude,
you snatch the vocals out. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, think about the hard work you had to put in back then. And that's that was another one of my questions for you. It was like, how much harder was it to DJ back in those days when there was really no laptops to help you? There was dude. I remember, DJs used to carry crates of records, bro. They just had boys help them carry crates, you know, back and forth to the car to, you know, speak. They had that. Matter of fact, they had their whole damn setup. They had speakers. They had their mixers. They had all of their shit. And, you know, for DJs to have that, like, how hard, you know what I'm saying? Think of how good these new cats have it, you know what I'm saying, today versus when, you know what I'm saying, when you started, you know?
So, like, I remember we did a party, me and my boys, we did a party, and a couple things, party in Oceanside. And then we also got hired to DJ one of the local high school dances at the time, and we just had crates of records.
Just a whole bunch of shit. And it's weird
because, like, whenever you're transitioning, like, so you could have the chorus playing, and that's usually where you do your mix-in, right? And a lot of these records didn't have an 8-count fucking, you know, intro, and then the vocals.
So you're trying to count. You have to literally count the shit.
So you used to have to buy doubles of the record because you would have to cut the instrumental in, wait until that chorus was over, take that other fucking record off, and then blend the fucking vocals into it.
Another thing, youngsters, learn how to count. Okay, you have to learn how to count music. You have to count bars. Yeah, you do. You have to count bars. I remember doing that in music when I was in the booth. I'm like, okay, boom, this is where it goes. You just it was kind of natural where it came. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead, my bad.
So like whenever like, and that's the same thing like whenever like you have like one of my first drum machines was an Akai MP60. A Roger Lynn edition one, and then later on I had the MPC 2000 XL, and that metronome, you know, that it just keeps you on beat. Right?
Yeah.
And then so like just learning how to count that.
The counter. But
it was so different because everything was like from such like it was weird. Like you're like you heard the tick, but you're like you already knew.
Right. You knew where to count. You knew what was gonna come in. You knew where the chorus was gonna come in. Yeah.
And then you had dudes obviously like, you know, Dilla that defied all that, and you could make like dope drums that were all over the place but still make it sound, you know, funky or whatever. But yeah, I mean, just DJing from back then, it was just very, very hard.
Like sure now, it was.
Now with laptops and shit like that, and the mixers that you have nowadays, oh man,
you got a click of a button as to where you want that.
That you have to be very creative with that also. Like I think there's a big difference between DJs, you know, just mixing and DJs that, you know, perform. Like J-Rock from the Beat Junkies is, you know, one of my favorite DJs, and every time he's on, he always will just wow.
Right. Just cold as shit. Yeah.
Right. So it's just dope. It's
that's dope, man.
Yeah, man.
That's dope, man. It's funny how we talk about how much the control of a DJ has. Let me tell you a quick story. How much control? Let me show you how much control a DJ has. So I think this is my first performance solo. I was in a group, and this is my actual very first solo performance. I had kind of, swayed away from the group at the time. And, the guy, wasn't really, vibing like that. We weren't getting along. We just kind of like dismantled. And, I had people in my ear at the point in time telling me I need to, go solo. I didn't really need them at that point in time. And which I really did. There's no disrespect, but I mean, we just kind of grew apart.
Yeah.
I felt like I was a little bit more advanced at the time, just as far as that goes. So it was just kind of time for me to kind of part ways and do my own thing. So we went solo. I had a manager at the time, and he had introduced me to one of his good friends, was a DJ, Alex Bellardi. Shout out to Alex, man. I'll never forget you, man. But you screwed me on this night. so, um, um, something happened where I had now, mind you, back then, iPhones had just come out, so I had all my music on my iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
But I have him a drive. I gave him my drive of performance tracks. Because back then, I don't know if they still use it now. I don't really hear it on stage, but there's a difference between performance tracks and the actual track itself. And the performance tracks always had the ins and outs, your ad libs, and the chorus on it to kind of help you get through. It wasn't something you would hear, because if you listen to performers now when they're on stage, you can actually hear the entire song behind them versus just them, and then you'll hear the chorus come in. But at this time, he had my performance tracks. It was like 4 tracks, and he had my performance tracks. And so I'm like, okay. He had gotten to somebody with his girl or something, and security carried his ass out. I'm still in the club. My manager's still in there. A couple people we came with, but him and his girl got kicked out. They would not let him back in. I was offering to pay to get him back in. They would not let him back in. I'm like, so at the time, I'm like, hey, yo, can I get my drive? Because I'll just have the house DJ put my shit on, and we'll just go from there. He wasn't trying to hear me. He's like, no, they should let me fucking back in. No. I'm like, Bellardi, can I get my damn drive, bro? And so I don't know what ended up happening. I think I went back in for some reason. I came back over and I asked my manager at the time, I'm like, where'd he go? He's like, he left. He's like, but I'm on the horn. I'm trying to get him back because we got to get the drive back. Fuck. I ain't have shit, dude. So now I'm like, okay, so what the fuck I'm going to do? I have no music.
Yeah.
This is my performance. The headliner had pulled out. So now I'm the headliner of the show.
Oh, Lord, dude.
Headliner pulled out. I'm like, fuck, that's the first performance. Club full of people. I'm like, oh, shit. So I just so happen to have the music in my phone. I told the DJ, was like, where's your shit at? I'm like, you just got to plug my phone up, G. He's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, go ahead. So I told him, just press play right here. You don't have to do anything. Okay. You press play. I ended up getting through the performance. The performance is dope as fuck.
That's what's up.
But just to know that the DJ had my music, that's how much it controlled the situation. You know what I'm saying? He had the actual fucking music. You know what I'm saying? So that's how much a DJ controls the situations. You know what I'm saying? That's how much they control situations like this. And funny ending to that story was, I at that time did not have my phone on silent. So if somebody call I have people calling my phone all night trying to get in the club,
You gotta put that shit like on airplane.
The whole motherfucking club would motherfucking ring, the iPhone ringtone in this bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, god damn,
It's funny how
yes, man. Yes.
Technology has just completely
right. Man. Yep, it was crazy, man. Kind of pivoting off that, man. Who's your biggest influences when it came to DJ? I know you can't. It's a lot of them. You can't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's a whole lot of them, but just give me a few that kind of play a part in, like, yo, this is my. You know what I'm saying? Like,
God, dude, there's so many. There's like so many, dude. Beat Junkies for sure. Scratch Pickles. I'm like a big D Styles, Qbert, and Shortcut fan. But Melody and Babs and J Rock, they're just I've always looked up, and I've always tried to embody like the same type of, especially with the Junkies, man, because they were just so well-rounded.
Yeah.
Such well-rounded DJs. But I mean, as far as like battle DJs go, Mr. Sinister, Total Eclipse, um, Rock Raider, guys like Craze, A-Track, like the Allies, people from Top Ramen Crew, IF2, P-Trix.
Right.
God, there's so many. And even like the new school, even like the new school kids today, man, like K Swiss. There's so many DJs.
Right.
But definitely, um, the pioneers for sure. Because I think they helped kind of shape that in the DJs that I looked up to, which then, were they paved the way for them, and so
right.
They showed us like how to, what a DJ is supposed to be, and so yeah, there's so many, man.
Right.
So many.
Right. That's dope, man. Just to know who your influences are and that you got into this thing authentically and that you did have, what I'm saying, somebody who inspired you to do that. I always, get the question of who inspired me to want to rap. And, one of my biggest influences, because I got into rapping late.
Yeah.
Like I was always into music. I knew all the lyrics. I was always a musical person. But who got me into wanting to type of rap was, to the greatest metaphoric rappers I believe in my time, which is Lil Wayne and Fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about metaphors and you talk about different ways they like to flip the shit, I think Fabulous is one of the greatest MCs out there that really dope. People don't really give a lot of attention to. But Fabulous is one of the greatest MCs ever. You know what I'm saying? Whoever has he's just dope, man. He's got style, he's got flow, his metaphor, his bars, bro, like are on another level when it comes to, I think, like soul mixtapes. His mixtapes was one of the greatest series of all time.
Yeah.
So that's dope, man. So
but then if you let's talk about like the DJ like controlling that part of it. If you even have like the right, so Breathe with Just Blaze and Fab. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Just that track.
Oh yeah.
And Just Blaze he's a DJ.
Yeah. A lot of the producers out there were DJs.
Yeah.
Dr. Dre was a DJ.
Yeah.
DJ Quick was obviously a DJ.
He's another one that's underrated.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Hugely underrated.
Yeah,
like he's is big part of the West Coast scene, but not just West Coast. I mean, this dude has brought back a lot of groups. He's brought back a lot when he did, Get Down with Tony. Like Tony, that was one of my favorite songs that he's ever done. And it's just that the influence and really just kind of bringing out one of the first MCs of Compton to really come out and really make it his own, because it was his music. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you understand how hard it is for somebody to not only compose the music but have to perform it, and it's their music. They made the beat, they made the track, they scratched on it, they did all this shit, and then to have people come out and accept it and it be something big. That's a huge thing. So like I said, when people, you know what I'm saying, when people DJ, you know what I'm saying, and they come out with these records and DJs make beats and shit like that, it's a big thing, man. That's a huge thing, man. It's hard to do, man. That shit is not easy to do.
It's hard,
that shit is not, you know what I'm saying, easy to do at all. So I think it's dope, man. What do you prefer, man? Do you prefer digital or analog?
Both, really.
Both.
Yeah. I mean, coming up, obviously, I come from an analog background, but I'm not so like, because I know that back in the day there's purists and shit like that, and I think that if you know how to work analog gear, I think your understanding of learning how to operate digital stuff is more advantageous, right?
Yeah.
So I have nephews that come over, and they're into like a lot of, like, a couple of them got into like DJing and buying controllers and stuff like this, and one of them goes, I think I can rock this on a turntable, and they get on turntables and they find out that it's very different. It's not
easy. Yeah.
They go, man, this is fucking hard. And so I both. I think that obviously coming from like an analog background, and it was different because back then, dude, like I think my fucking MPCs only sampled like fucking like 15 seconds.
Right.
Like you had to
it was harder back then because everything was manual. Everything was presets. You had to have your shit in there correct. Like I've heard like What's the cats that made Who Shot You with for LL. Boom, 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 and they were just hitting that one.
Yeah.
You heard and he was like, oh shit, I know what that is. You know what I'm saying? Like I know what that is.
See, it was even harder. Like, so my NPC, like if you were fucking with dudes that were running like an EMU SP1200, for example, right? Like who had that? Easy Moby had that. God, dude, so like other like that was like the shit back then, right? And like you would pair that with like an Akai S950 or something like that, you get like a little bit more sound, but still, you were only working with what 8 seconds of time,
right,
you know, like who the fuck does
that?
Right. And you were
able take this smidget of something,
but you were still able to make hits off of that shit, you know, and it was just such an iconic piece of equipment. But I think now, you know, like so like even some of my favorite DJs now, like they fuck with like, you know, the new Pioneer mixers where you know, a lot of it is preset and you're pressing buttons, but I know where they came from.
Yeah.
And so watching them like work off of what they knew before plus this shit is like fucking game changer.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I mean both, really. Yeah.
That's dope.
Like both I think it both serves a purpose.
There's always a big separation between the big worlds. You know, a lot of old school, this new shit. You know, it's
I try to see past that because I remember, you know, like just my just listening to like, you know, people that were, you know, older than me or like even just like, you know, your uncles or whatever, like I don't like that shit. You know?
There's always that old hater. Yeah. There's always that. Back in my day, we didn't have to do all. That shit, I was watching. I forgot what it was called. I think it's called The Get Down, and it was kind of a story like Grandmaster Flash, and you know how they got down, and of how he created. How was it? How is it? The breakpoint. He marked it with a crayon.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's how I remember where the break point is. You know what I'm saying? So you're listening to it on one side, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude.
But that's an art, bro. Like that shit's hard, dude.
Nowadays, dude, you could just you're so basically Serato is like the platform that a lot of these DJs are using. Okay. Right? And I mean, in its own right, it's come very, very far.
Right.
It's a very good piece of equipment, but you're just, you know, you're just marking you basically
where it is,
press of a button. It's right there. But you can look through like my battle records, my hip hop records, man. You got fucking stickers and all that shit up on there. Because we didn't have
right. What was your go-to battle record?
Oh God, dude. Probably Toasted Marshmallow Breaks by the Scratch Pickles or Super Duck Breaks by Babu.
Okay.
There were so many.
Yeah.
Gambling Pete was another one by Melody that I used to use a lot. Anything from D Styles.
Okay.
You know, but those were always like the ones that I mean up until now, like until now I always scratch with them.
Right.
You know? Yeah. So
that's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. Going back to samples, what's your ultimate sample? If you had one sample to use,
I really thought about this.
What would your sample be? I know, because again, like I told you, ladies and gentlemen, when I went to this man's house, I mean, he's got vinyls for your mama's vinyls. Like they're fucking everywhere, man. I mean, it's so organized, and I'm like, dude, I'm like, how the hell do you know what you even have in here?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so many, but the setup is beautiful. But like for what, you know what I'm saying? Like that's very hard. That's that's tough. But what? Okay, so give me your favorite sample.
I think probably the one that stands out to me the most is Apache by Incredible Bongo Band.
Ooh, yeah, I know that one. Yeah. I know that one. Yeah, I know that one.
And only just because, like, once you hear it, you know.
Yeah, you know exactly what it is. Yeah.
But I mean, it could be like that's just like probably the most iconic one for me.
Okay.
But I mean, it could be anywhere from like I know James, like a lot of James Brown shit.
Yeah,
like, dude.
Yeah.
At one point, man, I was collecting so much funk and R&B and soul stuff. That's all I was collecting, you know. But definitely Incredible Bongo Band, Apache.
Right.
You know, I think by far, I don't even. That's like the only thing that I can think of. Like I thought about that, and I was like, "Fuck, that's a really good question. But it's so hard to answer."
Right. Oh yeah, it's a very tough. That's a very, very tough.
Yeah.
tough thing to answer. I know you had went on a trip to New York.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, man, because from being from California, I've never been to New York, but number one, New York people kind of get on my nerves because they got to tell you they're from New York every 5 minutes. You dig what I'm saying? I'm from New York. Okay, motherfucker, like I get it, bro. Like, but I mean, I dig the culture.
Yeah.
Growing up, that's what I saw growing up. I saw the whole, the East Coast versus West Coast beef, and you had Notorious B.I.G. You had Gangstar coming out of the East Coast. You had Wu-Tang. You know what I'm saying? One of my favorite groups that came out of the East Coast. One of the more commercialized groups because I didn't grow up with East Coast culture. I grew up with West Coast culture. You know what I'm saying? But again, I didn't know East Coast until I got into like high school.
Yeah.
That's when I started understanding who Wu-Tang was, who Redman really was, who, you know what I'm saying? Just them cats back then, man, like Guru and like just knowing these people, like, man, it's like huge, man. Like that influence is huge, man. So like when you went to New York, I'm sure you went crate picking. I mean, I'm sure you. I know you didn't have all the time in the world.
That was one of the we went out there with our good friends. Shout out Mo and JR, and my wife's. It was we were there for probably about a week, a couple days, but that was like one for the soul.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
Because I mean, I know that we talked back in the day, and my love for like East Coast hip hop, but that was really, really one for the soul.
Right.
Being like in the subways and going to Shaolin, like
Shaolin,
on Staten Island,
yeah, taking a ferry,
dude, yeah,
that's dope.
Where Wu-Tang was from,
that's dope as shit.
That was that was just like a deep like soul rush, right?
Because they're not anywhere from. Don't get me wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're not anywhere close to New York, right?
No.
There's nowhere near New York. It's like their own world.
Like their own world.
Yeah, that's dope.
So shit. That was dope as fuck when I found that out, right? So to put that into perspective, it was just like kind of like how that kind of ties back. Nobody fucking goes to Temecula.
Right. It's his own world, though. It's his own world,
but that's where I learned a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And so you learn about these, these dudes from Staten Island that came out with End of the 36, and you're just like, RZA would just fucking amazing.
Oh my god, man! Amazing, one of the greatest producers ever, man.
Dude, like
one of the greatest producers ever touched.
When I first heard Cream and Can It All Be So Simple?
My gosh, man!
Like, just amazing music, dude. Right? And so that shit stays with you forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just to be where it all kind of started, and then even going, to Brooklyn and being like a huge Biggie fan.
Biggie was from, and
like I even wanted to go to fucking Queens, but we didn't have no time.
Right.
We drove past Queens.
And for I understand, people to put in perspective who've never been there, those shits is not close to each other.
No,
they're you would think when you hear New York, it's like you would think it's L.A.
Yeah.
And there's Pasadena, and there's this like they're fairly not too far. But you hear these boroughs like Queens and Harlem and shit.
Hear the boroughs.
They're not close to each other. Like they're like.
It's weird, like I've worked with a couple of people that come from New York, and just talking to people that come from New York, and I can understand like the culture there is very rightfully so. Like you can see why that is such a huge influence, right? Then they come to Cali and they stay because
too damn cold in New York and shit.
it was cold in the motherfucker there, but yeah, that was like one for the soul right there, like for sure.
That's dope.
And so I had a chance to go digging at one of the spots out there, and I mean I tell you, man, I could have been at that record store for hours.
Yeah, I'm sure you could have.
And just talking to the owner there, like me and him, like we were already talking. Music shit. They can
kind of tell you when you're not from there.
Yeah.
The motherfuckers getting kind of sniff out of California.
Like we were talking about like we were talking about oh god, like there was a drum piece from David Axelrod. Track is called Holy Thursday, and it's probably it's probably up there with one of my favorite samples.
Right.
But I was talking to the owner about this, and he goes, "Oh man, you like David Axelrod?" And so he started like bringing up a whole bunch of stuff, and I was like, "Yeah, man, David Axelrod was another dude that helped produce a couple tracks for Ernie Ford, Tennessee Ernie Ford."
Okay.
Just like a bunch of stuff. So we kind of bonded over that, and it's funny, like the friends that were there like, okay, where are we going?
Usually, but you just straight like you straight up, you straight up part of the culture. So you stay there for hours in your world and shit.
Yeah.
That's dope, man. That's dope. So a while back, I remember I asked on my Instagram, can we really trust these dude cats with hip hop? And I got a lot of no's, but then quite frankly, I was surprised when I got that yes from you.
For me, yeah.
When I got that yes from you, I was like, oh shit, okay, so this is definitely. And at that time, of course, I was doing my research and shit like that. But 50 years of hip hop, we continue to celebrate the culture. We continue to celebrate,
absolutely,
how far it's come, how far it is, where it is now, regardless of the state of you agree or disagree. Hip hop is where it is, man. And we, I heard, Kevin Garnett say something. Is an NBA player? He said, when we continue to look at this pastime, the golden age, how it was and how it is, we're not really realizing how great it can be now. So I understood where your answer was.
Yeah.
There are a lot of artists that I don't listen to, and I'm pretty sure you don't, but I understand. You got to kind of live in the now, what I'm saying, at a certain point, because you're missing some of these artists out here are really great. Can you speak on your perspective of that?
One thing that you cannot take away is that change is inevitable, right? Mm-hmm. There's a reason why I said yes to that, and that's because it keeps us in the conversation.
Right.
And so, as long as there's a mentor for these kids to kind of go back to it and know where their roots kind of come from, they can take hip hop in the direction that it's supposed to go in. You know what I mean? Instead of just like how we were talking about, like the money grabs and stuff like that. I think it's very important to know where your roots come from.
Right.
First and foremost, who created, the culture, and what you can do to. Because I mean, let's face it, dude. Like, there's a bunch of new artists that are out right now, but really, like, the only ones that are kind of getting like they're talked about is like like your Kendricks and your J. Coles and dudes that know what it's like to have the culture those mentors.
Yeah.
Because when Kendrick came out, dude, he like a lot of like his underground stuff was fucking dope.
Yeah.
And then to have like a mentor like Dre kind of come in and take him under his wing. And not even only that, like just like a bunch of like the West Coast OGs.
Yeah. Like they kind of embraced him, like Snoops.
They did
embrace him. The Game. They took him on his tour and stuff like that.
Very much like kind of like the same thing with like Joey Badass and like DJ Premier.
Kind of like under his wing. And
then like it's like and even Wayne too, when he was with like Juvenile and like it was
it was an upbringing. It was an upbringing. It was
so that's if you I say that like you can trust these kids with it, but you also have to kind of guide them very much like taking that same approach as as that mentor role.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think that these kids nowadays, man, like the stuff that they come up with is just mind blowing. I think there was a kid that produced something for Kendrick like on his fucking iPhone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It'd be youngsters, like 15, 16-year-olds that be coming out with some of these dope ass beats that you hear out here, and these dope concepts. Yeah. So I mean, I definitely, when you put it in that way, I definitely can feel where you're coming from as far as that goes. Now you have a lot of the ignorance and shit out here that we hear, a lot of these well thought out, lyrics and things that people talk about. But again, I believe that's kind of what takes the authenticity out of it for me. But again, you do have to you do have to keep it relevant, because if they're not gonna keep it alive, at least if they're not doing what they're doing, it's gonna die.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Definitely. And there's gonna be that culture where they said in the 80s and 70s where this shit ain't gonna work.
That's kind of like I hate to bring it up this way, man, but that's kind of like, remember Tyson when he was coming up with Kuz D'Amato, like he really looked after Tyson.
Right. That was his son. Yeah. Right?
And then when Kuz died,
kind of went. Saying he just kind of lost it. Yeah,
he lost everything. And then Don King
comes
in.
That's a great analogy.
You know what I mean? Like
absolutely,
he just fucking just
he kind of
and didn't give a fuck about Mike. After that.
No, it was a whole money grab. Took the authenticity out of it.
You knew that Mike was gonna sell, and you didn't give a fuck about him. You just wanted to make money.
You just wanted to make money off.
And he was doing that, and he's just like, I think who's Don King promoting? Oh, Adrian Broner.
That's what I'm saying. He's promoting somebody recently. Yeah, Adrian Broner. So,
but just like that, like I think that very much so. Like whether or not these kids don't think that they need it, that mentorship. Because I had that growing up. My cousin Roy, who passed away, was a huge mentor to me, and he was one of the ones that got me into like. When he came up in Temecula, he had like a lot of Mexican friends. So he very much came up on like the law writing culture.
Okay.
But then he also listened. One of his favorite MCs was Quake, and so he listened to like hip hop, and he was kind of like that guy for me.
Right.
Him and his younger brother, and so I was only able to like kind of learn what I did, because of them.
Mm-hmm.
Which in the same sense, like a lot of like these younger like MCs or younger DJs and stuff, like tenfold.
Right.
So
that's dope. That's dope. I mean, kind of going back, we always talk about, the greatest, who's the greatest rapper of all time, who has the best album and, with rap and shit like that. But we never really get into, and you're a big R&B guy, but you never really hear who's the greatest R&B singer of all time, or who had the best R&B album. Now, when I ask these questions, people, I don't say this because it's a staple. Everything is opinionated. Obviously, everybody has their favorites. So I'm not here to say, but I am here to spark barbershop talk. This is what the spot is about. This is when we came to the spot. It was always a debate. Oh, this motherfucker. No, but in your opinion, bro, if you had to call it, who is the greatest R&B singer of all time? It's a two-part question. And then who has the greatest R&B album? For rap, there's a lot of people who say who Pac has the greatest. Who's the greatest album? Greatest greatest rapper of all time. And then some people say Big, and some people say Snoop, and it's all opinionated. But in your opinion,
with R&B,
and I know you come from the big, like I said, his Rolodex is huge. So you know what I'm saying.
I mean, with R&B, like when I was growing up, I was a big Babyface fan, and just with him and the deal also.
Yeah.
God, dude, like, I think probably because he probably just doesn't get he gets the recognition obviously that he deserves, but like, dude, honestly, it'd be like either him or Teddy Riley.
Yeah.
But I mean, even that, like, even like the more popular fan base, I was a big Michael fan. Like, but I mean, Babyface just has his hands in so many different artists, right? But shit, dude, like, that was like one of the things too. Like, growing up, if it wasn't rap music, like R&B was such a big part of it. Also, like, I remember my mom was a nurse, but she would get ready going to work and she'd be playing Whitney Houston, or some shit. But I mean, it was just, you knew how deep it was because, like, so a lot of people forget them too. There's a bunch of these like the junior sales of R&B, like the Jets.
Yeah.
Like, right, and they were just Samoan family.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that, God, dude, that there's just so many people to name. Also, I think just because of Babyface's body of work, who he's produced for and what projects he was a part of. I would definitely say that he's definitely up there.
Yeah, he was on so much that I didn't even realize. Like I want to say maybe, what was it, like even like maybe 2-3 months ago, I was listening. I don't know what got me on to listening Madonna, but he wrote "Take a Bow."
Yeah,
from Madonna. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that, and I was looking through the credits, and I'm like, Babyface wrote this shit. He came up with everything, and you know what I'm saying. Like, Babyface wrote this shit, so you know what I'm saying. So it's crazy. It's crazy of how, you know what I'm saying, of how he pretty much just kind of came up with everything, and just kind of came up with artists that you wouldn't even think that this man would be in the studio with, but again, that's music.
Yeah,
that's what makes the world go around.
When they did that, when they did that verses between them two, I think that shit shut the internet down.
Oh, yeah, it literally shut down.
Yeah, it did.
Shit didn't work.
It didn't work at all. It didn't work at all, man.
It didn't work at all. So,
but that was bad as fuck.
Yeah,
that was really dope.
Yeah, that was dope, man. And Teddy, he had it's supposed to be a small, intimate. We in COVID, where everybody is supposed to be separated. Babyface is cool. He got the sexy vibe with the candles and shit.
He looked like he had a smoker's jacket.
Right. Teddy got a whole damn band behind him. He performed, all this shit. I'm like, God damn, bro. I mean, it's a show. It's a show. I mean, that's what it was. Like you said, when you said Teddy and you said Baby, you talk about, one or two of the greatest prolific artists of all time. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Of all time, man. So that's dope, man. So, gonna flip it on you a little bit.
Okay.
You know, mental. This is November, and this probably won't come out in November at this point in time. But I like to always focus on men's mental health. It's no secret that I deal with anxiety. I've told you this before. I deal with anxiety. I do with a lot of things that a lot of men just kind of go through just on a daily basis. Just being a family man, being a working man, being a provider. And I'm not saying that women don't go through it, but a lot of things that are placed on men's shoulders, just societal views, just from a society view, systemic, staples that we put on ourselves and what society puts on us. It's a lot, and it's a lot for for a man to have to sustain this type of shit, given the life that we live now. It's a lot different than what it was back then. We were just providers back then. We went out and worked and we brought home the bacon and the wife cooked the bacon. But now, it's we live in a different world.
Yeah.
We live in a different world. We have to sustain a lot. So what is your outlet, man, doing this? I mean, you got the kids, you got the wife, man. You got you got to, you do your things on the side. Like, how do you sustain yourself, like, bro? Like,
it just, like, when the kids were younger, it was almost like you don't even know how you're going through the day because you're just so damn busy.
Okay.
Right. Now that they're a little bit older, and they help out, thank God, with Ezra sometimes. It's like fitness, right?
Right.
Like you just it has to be, you have to incorporate it.
Right.
Like, like if there's anything that, like, before I go to work, like I might work hella early, but I won't go in early. Fuck that.
Right.
I'm in my car taking my 15 minutes to decompress, like, having that alone time. And, usually like late at nights, like when I do, like, when everybody's like, chill or whatever. And
How are you guys? All right.
You too. And I get the chance to, then I'm usually out, just, scratching, cutting, listening to like a stack of records that I just bought, or just listening to things. I think that that's just one of those things where you really do have to find the time to fit that into your schedule.
Right.
And there can't be no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? Like, it's weird, like growing up like in a Filipino household, especially with my dad, dude. My dad was, still is, very hard headed, and there was no talk about mental health, right? Because if you talked about it, then for whatever reason, the thinking was that you were weak in some way, and I don't think that that's something that we should have put like. Nowadays,
it's a systemic thing that society puts on you. Back then it was.
Yeah, back then it was. Right. Like, because they talk about that shit like all the time. Like, I remember being a kid, and when you would turn on the TV back in the day, because back in the day you just had channels 2 to 13.
Right.
And so there was a lot of commercials with, like, back in the day there used to be a bunch more outlets as far as like mental hospitals go, because they played that shit
right
on TV.
There was like a lot of PSAs.
Yeah,
there's a lot of PSAs. Dude. There's a lot of PSAs for drugs. There's a lot of PSAs for mental health,
man.
And you don't get that now.
Yeah, dude, like the fucking eggs on drugs. Like,
right. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs,
right? Or fucking the dad. Remember, he found a joint. He goes,
right.
You, dad. Yeah. I learned about
the person asked commercials, man. Yeah, bro. That's it. Yeah,
bro. There was a lot of PSA for that, but then for whatever reason, dude, there's been a drop off on that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
There's been a lot of, closures of a lot of mental facilities. Not as much resources.
I was gonna say.
And you could totally tell. And now motherfuckers are wilding out. Right. Because you can contribute that to not having those resources.
Right. A lot of, and think about it. California deals with so much homelessness. I would like to say LA deals with a lot, homelessness. You got $1 million at the, 60th floor. You go down to the first floor, it's poor, and
it's sad, dude.
It's really sad. And, the crazy part, bro, is when you see a lot of those people, the majority of them are people who have mental illness.
Yeah.
They're not people who you just, you would think, can you go get a job, or you can go get a job, or you could. These people are mentally ill. They're not looking. This is normal to them.
Yeah.
This is the way they have built homes out there. They have toilets, and they have
Yeah.
Washing machines, and they have TVs. It's the entire setup that they have out there, and a lot of it, one of the biggest things that is heartbreaking to me is how we treat, American vets. You throw them out into this world, they go and they have to do these types of things to defend the country.
Yeah.
And shout out and thank you guys for continuing to do
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
But you throw them and then you throw them back in society, and they're just supposed to function in this. It's like somebody kind of get back into the world being in jail for so many years in prison. They're just supposed to function out here, given that what they had to do, given the things that they had to see and
Yeah.
do and have to witness and have to be a part of.
Yeah,
And
dude.
that's not normal. That's not something that they can normally function on. And then they come back out here, and then it's like, how are they supposed to function? What are they supposed to
Yeah,
do?
it's just this perpetual kind of cycle
Yeah,
that just kind of keeps going. And I
yeah.
don't even know the answer to it. You know what I
No,
mean?
I don't think.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's gotten so bad that it's like I don't know how to fix it.
right,
I
right.
don't think anybody knows how to
Right.
fix it.
I don't think you can throw. I think you can. Money is a big thing, but I think you're gonna have to. It's gonna take somebody who really cares
Yeah.
in regards to this, who really gives a damn, and who really cares about. It's gonna take somebody who's either dealt with it or who knows. You know what I'm saying? The struggle of it, because I think that dealing with mental health, and I didn't really realize, bro, I had so much anxiety until maybe like 2 years ago. And it's my type the anxiety that I have and I still deal with. It's this constant feeling of something is gonna go wrong, something is gonna bad happen, and you start to try to really figure out where these traumas and different things come from. And then a lot of times they don't come from anything. They just they're just in you. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Is it sometimes things that you dealt with in the past, obviously, but I've come to realize that it's okay. It's okay to not know why you're
Yeah.
depressed at this moment. It's okay to not know, what I'm saying? And given the line of work that we both have done, and there's a lot of things that we've seen
Yeah.
and we see people go through, and it's like, bro, we are blessed to have
Yeah.
these types of problems, given the, what I'm saying, what we see. But at the end of the day, I don't wish mental struggle on anybody.
Yeah.
I think if 90% of people went to therapy, and I think this world would be so much better off, man.
Yeah, I think therapy is like a huge thing too, and also the support system that we have.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah.
We're very blessed in that aspect. But therapy, I think, is something now that I think people are starting to embrace more of. Like I think about like that shit, and like I'm like, damn, if my pops was willing to go through therapy back then, the type of man that
how far we would have came now.
Right. So because you think about a lot of not to say that any different. Like I love my pops for who my pops is, and it just kind of gives you just like that different way of kind of like growing up. But man, there's a lot of people that you see that have have been given a second chance, third chance just by going to therapy alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that should be utilized. I think it's something that should be promoted more for sure.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. That's it's huge. And like you said, I think it's becoming a little bit more popular these days to do it, and people are kind of a little more open to it because it's more of a kind of an accepted type of thing versus a looked down upon, or you're looked at a certain way because of this. I think I can appreciate that jobs, obviously try to get you to, give you, take they put a lot on you, but there are points where you can be like, yo, I'm mentally just, I can't do this right now, and they just have to completely understand. So I think that's amazing, man. I'm gonna wrap it up soon. But I have two last questions for you. Now, first off, we would get back into this Tupac thing.
Okay.
And you were one of the people who told me to watch the Dear Mama. The Dear Mama docuseries. And
such a well done.
It was a very well done, wasn't it, bro? Like
very, very well done.
I think one of the biggest things for me, man, is when they isolated his vocals.
I think that's a huge part of it also.
When they had his vocals and you could just hear the rawness, you can hear the paper turning, you can hear his jewelry clinking, you can hear, and it's just a personal type thing. And when you had that sound up, and it's just like, you know what I'm saying? My gosh, man, it's just like, it's when you hear this man's voice, you can hear the pain in this brother's voice. And like I was telling one of my other boys, like when given it the how he was even born into this world, you got to understand where this man comes from. He was misunderstood, but you got to understand what he was born into. When a mother is going through things and she's stressed out while she's pregnant, that baby is getting everything that she has.
Yeah.
The stress, the emotions, the traumas, the different things, all the drama that went on when she was pregnant with him. And I don't want to ruin it for a lot of people who didn't watch it out there, but you got to understand what this man was born into.
Yeah.
He was born basically in jail.
Yeah.
So this man was born in captivity. He was born locked down. He was born in a system that was ran against him. So when you come out, you're gonna have anger naturally. You're gonna be, he's, you know what I'm saying? He's born into stress.
Yeah.
So think about when somebody dies at 25 years old of what they had to go through. What was your perspective on that, man?
So one of the things that right off the bat that I noticed, like when they filmed it, is how they intertwined Afeni's like trial and Pac's trial.
That was amazing, right?
Right. So that was dope. How they were able to keep throughout that whole documentary bond between mother and son, because that was so important.
Right.
But singling out his vote, because I'm like, man, who better to tell a story than yourself?
Right.
About yourself than you. And this is a man that was, for lack of better words, totally ahead of his time.
Absolutely.
A revolutionary, a storyteller, and somebody that we, quite frankly, were not worthy of.
No,
at all.
No.
Just what the type of person that he was, captivated minds. He spoke with audiences and people would listen.
Right.
And it's just sad to see somebody like that pass away at such an early age, but the vocals, man, it was if anything, it was captivating. It was very thought-provoking, but that's like the only thing. Like, so when they did that, and I'm like, damn, like really, who honestly better to tell a story about themselves than you, than that person, right? So it was different because when they did, because Hulu did a Dilla one also, and it was a good documentary too, but you didn't hear a lot from Dilla.
Yeah, no, you didn't hear a lot.
Intro.
I didn't know a lot about Dilla until until he passed away. I didn't hear too much about.
You
Dilla.
had like a lot of people speaking for him. His mom's was speaking.
I know.
For him.
His mom spoke a lot for him.
But Pac was such a polarizing figure, right? And there was reasons for the things that he did, and that documentary, man, it just opened up.
Opened up a lot, didn't it?
Yeah, dude.
It wasn't the typical who shot Pac.
Yeah.
It wasn't the typical we're gonna hear the same stories over and over and over and over again. Yeah. No. And I don't know if I got the candle back there, but did you get a chance to experience the Wake Me Up When I'm Free museum they did for Pac?
No, I know that they because I remember that you posted.
Yeah, I went. That was amazing, bro.
Yeah,
it was amazing to see. You see different things and different stories and actual pen writings and the reels that he had. You know what I'm saying? It was an area where it was Dr. Dre's reels where you couldn't touch. It was blocked off, and it was actual soundboard where he recorded, All Eyes on Me. And it was just amazing just to see. And if you're an artist or DJ or anybody who's part of music, you really get to appreciate shit like that.
Yeah,
it was amazing to see. I think one of the biggest points in the documentary really took me out, man, was, and again, I don't like to tell a lot, but I have to talk about it, was when he was going to off himself.
Yeah.
That took me out. That damn near made me almost cry. You know what I'm saying? As a grown man, I almost cried in that situation because you got to understand, this man, it just shows you the authenticity of a human being. Like, I'd rather be dead than to be shackled. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna take me out. I'm gonna go to the forest, just drop me off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna smoke a bunch of weed and just call Matulu and tell them they lost one. And it's like, God, man, my gosh, bro.
The stuff like
it's just shit like that, little stories you hear, dude, man. I've never heard nothing like that.
It also brings a very human element to it, though,
yes,
too, right? Right? Because you look at him as just like this larger than life.
Yeah, man.
And then like the rape charges,
right? And you're genuinely and just not being a fan of him, but when you see that, you can honestly see he didn't do that. Yeah. It wasn't him. It wasn't in him to do that. Yeah. It just was not in him to be that way. So when you talk about somebody going to jail who's innocent, damn, they convinced, like, it was just like, that's just not him. He loved women. He came from a single mom. He loved, like why would he valued, you know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, he didn't talk about, disrespectful shit when it came to women until he got to death row. But then again, that's when it came to the character Pac. It was no longer about um it was no longer about the struggle. It was more about the lifestyle. And that's why you can hear definitely the struggle with on the Two of America's on All Eyes on Me, but it was more of a lifestyle when he came to death row. And unfortunately he couldn't be that for the people on death row. He had to be a part of the hood. He had to be a part of the clique. He had to be a part of lifestyle. He had to show the you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think he kind of addressed that earlier on too. Yeah. Because when he was on that talk show with those white folks on there, they're like, so what can you do? He's like, making music. Right. That was the way to kind of get people to reach larger audiences, and But man, like you really watched that, and again, dude, it was such a well done.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys, like, if whoever hasn't watched that, y'all gotta go watch it.
You have to watch that.
You have to watch that.
You have to watch. Yeah, you have to watch.
And it's an easy watch too. Is it like
five episodes? It's about 5 episodes. Yeah, but it's an easy watch, and it's just great.
It's great.
It's great. It's something I would actually watch again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I actually started watching it again.
Did you? Yeah, I would watch it again. I definitely.
Like episode 2 again.
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, absolutely, bro. I definitely watch this shit again, man. Let me ask you this. Last question. I deal with a lot of current events that go on in the music industry and different things like that. You have the R. Kellys, you have the, and they like to point it towards music artists. And I think it sucks because, you have a lot of these older artists like Elvis and, a lot of these people who did things with, underage children that didn't really get the light back then. And I think it really didn't get it, and it was hid because the color of their skin, and I don't like to say, oh, because he's black and all this. No, when you're dealing with, anything that has to deal with, black culture has always been, oh, then we have, you know what I'm saying? It's not really recognized as an actual culture. It was, rap. Remember, the rap is crap and all that bullshit they try to, you know what I'm saying, pull and shit like that. But I think, when it comes to, music in general, and you have these people who have been so impactful on music, R. Kelly's. Then you got this whole, Puff Daddy situation and shit going on, and
that's just wild.
Right. And mind you, if these people have done this shit, then they belong where they belong. They belong in jail. I would never say that anything that's ever happened to a victim didn't happen or anything like that.
Right.
But when you start to bring up things that happened 9, 10, Bill Cosby, 30 years ago, how much of an assault is it from then to now? Do you believe that there's a statute of limitation when it comes to that type of thing? Like, what's your belief? Because I guess the way I'm gonna ask this question is, what kind of is it justice? What kind of justice is it looking for? Are you looking to take this man down? Because if you're saying that somebody has done this to you from years ago, what are you really looking for?
So with the Puff stuff, just when that came out, it was kind of just like, well, I think up until then there was like a lot of shit that was coming out about Puff, right?
Yeah. It was just a gradual build. It was a gradual build.
It was a gradual build up to it. But watching like the R. Kelly stuff, like the first thing I can think of was, where the fuck were the parents at?
My question exactly.
Like, I don't like.
My question exactly.
So these are and some of the parents actually were on the documentary saying that they drove their damn kid, who's a 14, 15-year-old, to go to the
go on his concert, go on tours. They sign papers, let their daughters and shit go on tour with him.
What the fuck?
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Like, that part I don't get. And then, like, it's like, dude, you drove your kid to that shit, and then they're backstage hanging out
with a grown ass man. Men, yeah, it wasn't just him.
Yeah. People. What the fuck do you think that they're gonna help babysit?
Right. What the fuck? Yeah. What did you think was gonna happen?
So like stuff like that. Like, I mean, come on.
Because I believe it's this. I believe it's a problem. I don't believe it's a problem until the money runs out.
Yeah. Yeah.
When somebody gets tired of your bullshit and I'm not gonna pay you anymore to be quiet and all this kind of stuff, I think then you want to come out and say, hey, this person did this to me, this person did that to me. And again, I don't say that it didn't happen because you're a sick fuck if you can do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's a special place in hell for you if you can even drum up to do some shit like this or to even orchestrate some shit like this.
But you are right though. It's so fucking weird how stuff like that back in the day was kind of like, because Elvis married girl when she was like
14.
Yeah. And fucking Benny Mardoni is like,
right. You hear these lyrics, and it's just like
you're like, wait a minute,
what the hell?
What the
hell are you talking about? Yeah, what the hell are you actually talking about?
So yeah, it's fucking weird, dude.
Yeah, man. I think it's sick. I think it's weird, and I always wanted to ask that question. I never really got to ask anybody that kind of question because, me and my wife kind of not got into it with it a little bit, but we kind of argued a little bit about it because I have like a different perspective on it. My perspective is I believe everybody's wrong in the entire realm, but I don't think you can come back after 8-9 years and say, hey, I did this shit for so many years, now I want payback.
Yeah,
that's not because then you're I don't think you're a victim. I mean, you're a victim to a certain extent, but I don't think that it's off.
People need to speak up.
You know what I'm saying? Speak up when it happens. Yeah. Because $30 million is not going to take care of the things because you got to understand there's real people who deal with this kind of shit. You got people who can't be husbands, who can't be wives, who can't be themselves anymore. There's some people who turn to, the same race, the same sex because they've dealt with assault, as kids, and they dealt with assault as teenagers, and they can't trust that, and then they have to live with those wounds. But then when you come out as a celebrity and saying, hey, this happened to me years ago, give me money for it, you know what I'm saying? That's not really fixing the issue.
So I think I'm a big person on speaking up when you're wronged or something.
Absolutely.
Wrong,
absolutely.
You gotta, at that point, you gotta put your foot down. You gotta say, like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
But rightfully so too, though. Like, back in the day or even up until now, I do know that with the victim mentality, a lot of people do feel as if they can't say anything, or like what was that fucking dude from? Remember, Homeboy went in to go see Big Red in the 5 Heartbeats?
Yeah.
Man, you need to pay me. You need to pay me right now.
Yeah, you need to pay me.
And what Big Red do?
Yep, he hung his ass over the damn balcony. Now, my office hours.
And that motherfucker, you didn't hear nothing from
that dude. Damn thing after that.
But like, I can see that role of like these kids going like, okay, so for example, like, with like, let's say like this 15-year-old girl just went out and went to go hang out with R. Kelly, but you talking about the parents went to go drive them.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, so you had to get there. Yeah, you there was some form of adult presence where they weren't just sneaking out.
Yeah,
people were signing their children over. They were signing. I heard Aaliyah's parents let her go on tour with him at 14, 15 years old. And supposedly, I don't know, I can't say if it's true or not. I don't, but they were married, very, very young. Or,
that's what I heard.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like there's other people to blame in this situation other than the person who is in it. Now, of course, again, like I say, the person who did it, if you can seriously get up in the morning and say, this is what we finna do, I believe there's a special place in hell for you. You dig what I'm saying? Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's other parties involved. And just from my perspective, it's just like, how do you come out and say something 20, 30 years later when there's legally really no proof? There's really nothing out there but a word of what happened.
I think like a lot of that stuff though, man, like it's it becomes a very pervasive thing, like in that culture, because it's not just like, it's not, it's artists because of their popularity, right? But like, teachers and shit, they've been accused of doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, because I know like when my kids were going, to high school, there was a teacher there that was accused of that shit, and students were like, it's not them, like, or whatever. Like, you just have like, I don't know what it is, man. It's like this protection of them because they are somebody that cannot do this because of their celebrity.
Right. But we don't really realize they're humans.
They are.
They're humans. They pay bills just like you.
Yeah.
They got to make store runs just like you. They got, you know what I'm saying? They might have enough money or more money to be able to hide and get away with a lot of things, but they're humans just like you. Yeah. They have sick fetishes just like people out there. They're just weird. You know what I'm saying? They can be just weird just like everybody else. They're just, their life is just so magnified that, and you fall in love with them as being your, your favorite, one of your favorite writers, producers, whatever, personalities. You know what I'm saying? You fall in love with that personality, and we kind of attach on to them as if we know them, but we don't know them from a can of damn paint. You know what I'm saying? And we don't know what they do when that door is closed.
Because there's a liking of them, or because you feel like you have like this connection or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's one thing with me, dude. Like I've never really gotten too big on having like a favorite, that to the point where I'm blinded.
Right. And you're debating people about this shit.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. If you look on comments, you'll see like so many people divided, bro. It's the craziest shit in the world.
Like with politics too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like with politics also. Like I'm the same way. Like I just don't trust a politician.
Right. No, not at all.
I don't care what party you're from. Like,
right.
I just do not trust.
I'm all what you can do for me. You did what I'm saying? What are you gonna do for me and my my kids kind of growing up. So
yeah, very much that same way.
Yeah.
Have a mind of your own.
Yeah. Literally. These people are people just like you. You know what I'm saying? They go through the same things. They go through the same anxiety. They go through the same, you know what I'm saying, in therapy. They go just like I said. They're natural. They're regular human beings, just like you and I. But they're worshipped into us to a point where it gets kind of sick at the end of the day, where people put them on this pedestal, and they're just in this utter shock. I can't believe they would do something like this. Why not? You believe this motherfucker up the street who got a green dot on his house saying he's a damn predator would do it? So why don't you believe that this motherfucker would do it? Oh, just because he was on a show when you was growing up, and you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's always the ones that you don't expect. And what do they say about them? He seemed like a really nice.
He seemed like a really nice dude. Yeah.
He seemed like a really nice guy. Yeah. Always quiet. And
right. It beat him once, man. But I'm gonna wrap it up, man. But this last question for you, man. First of all, I thank you for coming on, man, and just being a part of it, man. I really appreciate it, man. You are always welcome back, brother. Anytime you would love to just come through and just bless the audience one more time, man. But my last question is this, man, and you've known, if anybody have seen these interviews, I always ask this one last question. You have a concert, any artist that you can bring out, but as a DJ, as a DJ, you are deeper into this. Now, you can only use. Now, I'm gonna flip it on you.
Okay.
I'm gonna flip it on you. Now, you have one concert, but as a DJ, no, excuse me. This is worded incorrect. As a DJ, you have 3 songs to get your crowd where you want them to be. Right. I always say, what's the 3 artists you're going to bring out to perform? But as a DJ, what 3 songs are you playing? Where are you going to in your repertoire?
Oh, God, dude.
Any genre. It doesn't matter. Any genre, man. Any genre.
Oh, Lord.
That's tough.
Jeez, man, you really just said that. 3 records that I would play to get the crowd going. God, dude.
It's tough.
It's tough.
That shit's not easy, bro. Yeah, that shit's not easy, man.
Oh, God, dude. Dude, can I use the 3 records that I play? Okay, anything. So Michael off the wall. God, what else would I play? Dude. Funky. Oh, God. James. Yeah, I'd have to use James, dude.
James Brown?
Yeah, James, dude.
Like, yeah, hell yeah.
For sure, James, dude.
This is tough for people. You gotta understand. This is tough for people who are really into the culture, into the music. So I like to throw this question in there because I like to kind of see where people's heads is. If the shit will hit the fan, what are you going to? You know what I'm saying? Dude, so you got Mike. So you got James.
God, I couldn't even pick. There's so much James Brown stuff that's out there that, oh God, man, it's just fuck so much good shit from James. And then last, what would I do last?
You're gonna bring the crowd home with this one.
Oof.
Bring them home. Shutting shit down.
Jesus, dude. God. I know I'm gonna do this is total disservice because this is just off the fly, dude. This is so tough. Man.
Yeah.
God, what would the last one be?
Mike and James is gonna kill the crowd anyway. I don't even know what the hell you can even bring in at that point to be like, yo, I'm gonna shut the shit down with this shit. Like,
fuck, who else would you bring in? God, man. Like I'd say Prince, but
shit,
yeah,
that's for me. That would be mine. That would be my go-to. Yeah,
dude. There was a clip actually of Prince. That's so fucking funny. There's a clip actually of James Brown bringing Michael on stage, and then Prince coming up also.
No shit.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah. Wait, so it was a James Brown concert. It's fucking. I did not plan this, honestly.
No. I do this. I like to throw this at people.
So this was a James Brown concert back in the day, and Mike was sitting in the fucking crowd as just a regular
Joe. Yeah. Well, that was his favorite.
Yeah.
James Brown was his influence. Yeah.
And so James Brown is closing out, and he sees Michael in the crowd, invites Michael to come up.
Shit.
And so Michael's rocking with him for like a good couple seconds. Mm-hmm. And then Mike sees Prince in the crowd, and then James wants Prince to come up. And so Prince
Prince come?
Prince came up.
Really? Because surprisingly,
you gotta check that
out. Prince don't come out. No, he don't listen to nobody. Yeah. He didn't. He moved on his own tune. You know what I'm saying? Literally. I would check that shit out. That's just dope as fuck.
Yeah, there's a clip that came out. If I remember correctly, and I remember watching that, thinking like, God, dude.
Right.
Yeah, those would be my three for sure.
That's dope.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even pick a record because like their discography is so damn vast, right?
It's deep.
And I even find myself nowadays, like even because digging early, like remember I was telling you I was digging for like a lot of like funk, soul, R&B stuff. Yeah. I find like the stuff that I'm digging for now is just so different from what I'm used to searching for. That it just kind of shows you like how much you evolve as like a person.
Right.
Too, you know what I mean?
That's dope.
But those would be the three.
James, Mike, and Prince. Shit, you shutting the whole damn show down with that shit, man. You shutting it down, man. Well, again, man, thank you for joining me, man. I really appreciate you, man, for coming through and blessing me one time, man. Thank you for joining us again in the spot today. Once again, peace and blessings to you and yours. Shalom. Continue to thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for everything that you do for the show, the feedback, the great feedback, the negative feedback. I love it all. I really appreciate everybody for joining me. Once again, thank you. I check. Thank you for once again. Happy holidays. Signing off.